earning your trust. This is Fox Eastern Carolina News at 10.
We love you. We love you, man.
Two brothers who spent 30 years in prison have their murder and rape convictions overturned and taste freedom for the first time in 3 decades.
A drug bust turns up drug paraphernalia and a dog with its ears cut off. We get the latest in an animal abuse case.
And the verbal sparring is underway. Republican Tom Tillis versus Democrat Kay Hagan in a debate tonight. We have highlights of this evening's banter with the election just 2 months away. Good evening, I'm Brian North.
And I'm Valentina Wilson in for Jamie McCutcheon. Welcome to Fox Eastern Carolina News at 10. The 2014 election season rolls into high gear in North Carolina.
Yeah, the candidate for United States Senate squared off in their first head-to-head debate. The Democrat and incumbent Kay Hagan in your top right corner, while Republican challenger Tom Tillis in the bottom right of your screen. And they came out fighting cleanly tonight. Wes Goforth watched every minute of the debate. He's in our newsroom with those highlights.
Well, Brian, I thought that Democrat Kay Hagan and Republican Tom Tillis looked very well prepared and were very dignified for this debate tonight. They debated for 1 hour some very important issues for North Carolina and the country. And question number 1 went to Tom Tillis. Is it time now for more U.S. military involvement against the terror group ISIS?
After the beheading of the first journalist, he came and expressed regret. And then a few days later, he said, we don't have a strategy for ISIS. How on earth can you not have a strategy for an organization that's almost 10 years old?
Senator Kay Hagan talked about another issue critical to the state's high military population, the situation with health care for veterans. She pointed out her support for the VA in getting additional facilities for veterans at Fort Bragg.
Their lives should not be at risk when they come home. I have demanded better from the president, and I have demanded the fact that we need to support our VA.
Hagan also brought up her support for women's access to contraception, something Tillis said he too supports, but not necessarily at taxpayer expense. Tillis called for less federal regulation in education and the minimum wage. Hagan decried Tillis's support for numerous tax cuts, which she says trickles down to fewer services for the middle class. But in the end, besides talking about what they support, the two very articulate, experienced elected officials with very different ideas about government tried to portray the other as being out of touch.
North Carolina is 48th in the nation in what we spend per pupil. Unbelievable. And Speaker Tillis is bragging about that.
Well, I tell you, Kay's answer leads me to believe she hadn't been in North Carolina lately.
Well, these two debated other issues. They talked about their differences in Obamacare and immigration, but make no mistake about it, if tonight's any indication, North Carolina is in for a very intense U.S. Senate debate right up to the November election. Wes Goforth live in the newsroom. Brian, Val, back to you.
A story we're going to stay on top of, Wes. Kay Hagan and Tom Tillis meet in their second and final debate October 7th. That debate will air live right here on Fox Eastern Carolina News.
Hot weather usually brings along the chance of thunderstorms, and Mother Nature certainly putting on quite the light show tonight. We set our camera up on the west side of Kinston earlier tonight and pointed it towards Goldsboro and watched the lightning bolts flash across the sky really without much stopping. It almost looked like the inside of a disco. There was so much lightning. Chief Meteorologist Skip Waters, he's tracking those storms in a first look at your Fox weather.
You know, I noticed that storm tonight. Tremendous amount of cloud-to-ground lightning. It looked like it was between New Bern and Kinston when it was actually up in the northern parts of Greene County. It's now moved up north of Tarboro. Just talked to Fast Eddie, one of our weather spotters up there, that said they had 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts, some small hail and heavy downpours of rain. A tracking cone shows that this is tracking out to the northeast, so the heaviest of rainfall will be moving out of our area fairly shortly. But I think what's important for you to look at is that most of the east is not seeing any rain at all. This batch will continue on up toward the North Carolina-Virginia border. There's a possibility a few of these showers could brush the beaches later tonight, and even the possibility that a few of these redeveloping over near Fayetteville could move a little bit more northeast over our inland areas. But our thinking right now is once this batch gets on up to the north across western parts of Martin and Bertie County, it'll be gone. Now, that having been said, this is the webcam in Greenville, looking along Greenville Boulevard on the south side of town. Obviously, it's still dry here. We've not had rain. So the bulk of that rain that fell was across the western part of Pitt County, from Farmville and Walstenburg up toward Falkland, and then across the county line over toward Coneta and places on the eastern side of Wilson County. So kind of two different worlds of weather. It's also interesting, you know, we told you yesterday we thought there'd be better chances of rain and storms today than yesterday. Then this afternoon they didn't seem to develop. They occurred a little bit later this evening, so we're going to go with that same kind of tack tomorrow. About half of us will see some showers and storms, probably late afternoon into the evening, and our thinking is it'll probably be like today back on what we refer to as the inland and north side.
Greenville police received numerous citizen complaints that help officers make several arrests. The suspects' charges include possession of guns, drugs, and animal cruelty.
Fox Eastern Carolina news reporter Brianna Harper went to that home where the alleged illegal activity took place to get some answers. She's now back in our studio with the answers.
Some people I talked to in this Greenville neighborhood didn't have much to say about the home on the corner of Kristen Drive. Others say the one thing they noticed was consistent traffic in and out of the home, but a police search warrant revealed so much more.
Police were alerted to apartment 314B off Kristen Drive in Greenville after citizens complained of drug and gang activity. Officers got a search warrant and found crack cocaine, marijuana, and several loaded guns. But the most surprising discovery was this pit bull puppy.
Wow. They can do somebody, if they can do a dog like that, they do people worse.
Police say the dog's ears had been cut off and his head wrapped in duct tape. 24-year-old Aaron Hatchett faces charges of felony animal abuse in addition to possession of drugs.
There ought to be animal permits to own an animal, you know, just have permits. That way they'd be out of the hands of people who would abuse them.
The two other suspects, 19-year-old David Howard and 44-year-old Delonta McGregory, are charged with possession of drugs and firearms.
The good news is the pit bull puppy was taken to Greenville Animal Control for treatment and is expected to make a full recovery. Live in the studio, Brianna Harper, Fox Eastern Carolina News.
And the combined bond amount for the three suspects is a total of almost $200,000.
Also new tonight from Pitt County, a suspect is identified in 2 armed robberies. Police say DeJuan Moss is one of 2 men who entered homes armed with a gun in Greenville early this morning. The other person, who has not been identified, they're still looking for that one too. Officers say the pair robbed homes on Allen Gay Road and the intersections of Highway 121 and Kittrell Hill Road. Moss will face first-degree burglary and armed robbery charges. His location tonight is not known. At least 2 other suspects are currently being identified.
New at 10 in Onslow County, family and friends gathered tonight in memory of 17-year-old Christopher Sabalos. The candlelight vigil held at Jacksonville at the Auto Break Car Wash and Country Club Road tonight. That's where Sabalos used to work. Sabalos was killed in a motorcycle crash on Western Boulevard Monday. He was a senior at Jacksonville High School. He's being remembered fondly by family, friends, and former co-workers.
We send these balloons in the air in hopes that just one of these balloons finds them. Serena, you'll know how we feel.
Motorcyclists in the Jacksonville area are planning to escort Sabalos' funeral procession Friday.
New at 10 from Greene County, a corrections officer is accused of having drugs on prison grounds. Sheriff Lemmy Smith says Devetta Stokes of Greenville was arrested last Tuesday. He says Stokes was helping at Maury Corrections when she was arrested. She's charged with possession of a controlled substance at a prison and possession of drug paraphernalia.
2 half-brothers who were convicted of raping and murdering an 11-year-old girl spent 30 years in prison, but new DNA evidence is causing a judge to overturn their convictions, and they were released from prison today. Our cameras were at the Maury Correctional Institute in Greene County when Leon Brown was let out and reunited with his family. Fox Eastern Carolina news reporter Avery Harper was there too. She talked to Leon about the turn of events in his life in this developing story.
Tell him. God is good all the time. All the time. I fought this battle with the help of God. I'm here today.
This battle is over for 46-year-old Leon Brown. He's won his freedom and claimed his innocence in the 1983 rape and murder of a Robeson County 11-year-old named Sabrina Bowie. DNA evidence linking the crime to someone else has given him his freedom and a new lease on life.
My next step is to move forward.
With his family and lawyers by his side, he looks forward to making the transition into a regular life, a life he hasn't had since he was just 15.
They had it on day 1. On day one, there was no new evidence to free him.
The evidence they had, DNA on a cigarette butt, linked a man already serving a life sentence for a similar slaying to this crime. His half-brother Henry McCullum was on death row for the same crime. He was released today, too, from a facility in Raleigh.
I don't like what they done to me and my brother, because they took 30 years away from me for no reason, but I don't hate him. I don't hate him one bit.
Brown's cousin Ted Morrison says he wishes Brown's mother could have seen this day. She passed away just a few months ago.
They took a 15-year-old kid and give us a kid back on meds, 10 different medications, losing his vision, took his mama, come on now.
Even though Brown is leaving the Maury Correctional Institution, he wants those inside the prison to stay optimistic.
All my prisoner fellow inmates is left behind. I hope and pray that y'all get out one day, hold on, and be strong.
A prayer he said for himself for many years. Reporting in Greene County, Avery Harper for Fox Eastern Carolina News.
Now, Leon Brown's lawyers also adding that they will be seeking a pardon from the governor. She says they're still deciding whether to seek compensation from the state of North Carolina.
Some legislation in California could rewrite how sexual consent is labeled at colleges nationwide. We'll have the latest as the Yes Means Yes law reaches the governor's office.
And a swastika painted on an apartment door results in ethnic intimidation charges against 2 ECU students. We find out why police think they did it.
You're looking at the Hilton Doubletree webcam at Atlantic Beach, and those are the lights of Atlantic Beach. But off to the right, we've been watching some lightning offshore in the Gulf Stream. We've got some lightning over land, too. We'll show you that and track it on radar next on Fox Eastern Carolina News at 10.
Earning your trust. This is Fox Eastern Carolina News at 10.